There's a difference between feeling calm and believing. Calm is the right decision. At first, calm is just a state. Nothing urgent, nothing broken, nothing forcing your hand. But at some point, quietly, without announcement, calm turns into a reason. You stop saying, "I don't feel pressure," and start saying, "It makes sense to wait." That's the shift this episode is about. Not fear, not panic, not even risk, but the moment calm stops being emotional and starts sounding logical. Think about the last few weeks. Nothing exploded, nothing collapsed, nothing demanded immediate action. And everywhere you looked, the message was consistent. Not enough confirmation. Conditions aren't ideal yet. Better to wait for clarity. None of that sounds irrational. In fact, it sounds responsible. Waiting doesn't feel passive anymore. It feels disciplined. You're not frozen. You're not confused. You're being selective. That's how calm upgrades itself. It stops being an absence of fear and becomes a posture you can defend. What makes this state dangerous isn't any single reason to wait. It's the volume of them. There's always one more signal that says, "Not yet." One more data point that says, "Still early." One more argument that sounds sensible. And each reason, on its own, is harmless. But together, they form a structure. A structure where not acting feels more justified than acting. You're no longer calm because nothing is happening. You're calm because you've built a case. This is where something subtle happens. You tell yourself you're still neutral, but neutrality requires reevaluation. What you're actually doing is maintaining a position without revisiting it. Waiting becomes the default state, not because you chose it today, but because yesterday didn't force you to change it. That's the moment calm stops being neutral. It becomes sticky. Here's the hardest part to notice. You're not just waiting. You're being right about waiting. Every day that passes without consequence reinforces the belief that your reasoning was sound. Nothing punished the decision, so the decision doesn't get questioned. Calm starts feeling earned. And once calm feels earned, challenging, it feels reckless. Mistakes usually announce themselves. They hurt. They surprise you. They demand a reaction. This doesn't. This feels clean. There's no emotional regret attached to waiting, no obvious loss. So your brain doesn't flag it as risk, it flags it as maturity. That's why this phase is so hard to exit. Nothing is screaming wrong. At this stage, you're not checking how you feel. You're checking whether your reasons still hold. And as long as they do, you stay. You're no longer asking, "Is this still the right posture?" You're asking, "Has anything invalidated my logic yet?" That's a very different question. And it keeps you calm, long after calm stopped being useful. Here's the cost no one talks about. When calm turns into justification, you stop practicing decision-making. You don't sharpen timing. You don't test conviction. You don't adjust posture. You wait for permission. And permission rarely arrives on schedule. By the time it does, the environment has already shifted. Not because you missed a signal, but because you outsourced responsibility to logic. This state feels safe because you're not emotional. You're not impulsive. You can explain yourself clearly. And explanation feels like control. But explanation is not the same as awareness. One justifies the past. The other engages with the present. Calm as reason keeps you explaining why yesterday still applies today. There's a moment, quiet, invisible, where waiting stops being temporary. It becomes identity. You're the one who didn't rush, the one who stayed disciplined, the one who didn't get shaken. And once that identity forms, changing posture feels like betrayal. Not of a strategy, but of who you believe you are. That's when calm fully hardens. This episode isn't telling you to act. It's not telling you to move, or buy, or sell. It's asking you to notice something simpler. The moment calm stopped being a feeling and started sounding like a reason. Because when calm becomes a reason, it no longer protects you from mistakes. It protects you from questioning yourself. And that's the quietest risk in the room.